All right, everybody. My next guest is a comedian, writer, and actor who has worked with everyone, including legends such as Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence to Bernie Mac and Billy Dee Williams. Here he is, folks, the very funny Doug Williams. Doug, how's everything going, my friend?
Great, man. I like that intro. You get right to it, man. Boom, 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 boom. I thought you were gonna do like a little prelude, a little talking about this. You said, "Hey, this guy right here's done this, this, and that." All right, Doug, what's up? Let's go.
You should have saw the first draft because you've done so much. You have like an extensive, impressive resume, my friend.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me on the show, man. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. And are you in New York?
Yeah, I'm a Long Island guy. So born and raised Brentwood, Long Island, home of EPMD and Craig Mack.
Okay.
Yeah, so I used to work with Craig. Toys R Us. We used to rap battle.
Oh, okay. Well, you know the history. All right. Well, cool, man. I love New York. My wife is from New York, so from the Bronx. So
Nice.
very familiar with New York. And like I said, happy to be here, man. Let's get cracking.
Yeah, man. And we talked a little just a little hip hop. Like I said, I'm a Brentwood guy. You kind of started off your career as a rapper, huh? You were like a comedic rapper.
Right. Not by design. In Montgomery, Alabama, it was in the mid 80s, and rap had really just taken off with Run DMC, LL Cool J, the Fat Boys. And at that point in time, everybody was trying to do something with rap. You beat on the garbage can drums.
Yeah.
You kind of throw some rhymes in there. So I started doing that. At the time, I was rapping with a guy who was like really serious. He was like Run DMC, and I was more like the Fresh Prince, just to
Right,
to give context to it. When he was rapping about parents don't understand and things like that. I was rapping about fat women in spandex and fat women loving fried chicken, and he was rapping about hard times and the struggle. And so it just came down to him and a few other guys whom I knew were like, man, maybe you should try comedy, man. Maybe that would be better suited for you. And I was already a fan of Pryor, Red Fox, and everything. And I said, you know what? Maybe that is, maybe I should do that. And that's what I did.
Cool, man. It's pretty cool. Like, I get a kick out of the fact that you weren't serious enough to be in the rap group anymore, and they were like, you know what, man, maybe you should just go be a comedian, because back in the day there used to be a lot more funny or fun-spirited rappers, like you said, the Fresh Prince, but there was the Fat Boys, Slick Rick. I'd say Humpty, the Humpty Hump, and all that stuff, and then early Eminem. It seemed like there's no more of that anymore. Are there any more funny rappers out there?
Nah, man, things have just, I think people are just taking themselves too serious. Everybody now wants to be hard. Everybody wants to, the street cred. Everybody wants to be seen as, like a mafioso type guy, to be feared, to be reckoned with. And it's funny because most of those guys, man, are not hard at all. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, but if you meet some of these guys, you be like, man, that guy is so cool. He's so nice, so down to earth. And it's not like the image they portray, but people are trying to do what sells. And I don't know how much of that is the record company influencing them or telling them they should go this way. I don't know. But no funny guys anymore, man.
Yeah, man. Maybe we should try to bring that back.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll see. Yeah.
Corona. It's the worst day. We gonna stay inside like it's the worst day. We gonna hide like it's the worst day.
You said you were influenced by the Red Fox and guys like that. Who'd you kind of mold your style after in the beginning?
In the beginning, I think I've said this before. I think we were all like clones of Richard Pryor, some type of clone of Richard Pryor. We watched him. We loved the stories he told, the different voice inflections he could do, talking like white people. So I think we were all, or at least when I started, we were all some type of variation of him. It was like a clone of Richard Pryor, not necessarily in being like him and talking like him, but in the subject matter, in doing our white voice, in trying to tell stories. And, you know, I think we were all some type of variation of him.
Wait, white people are so technical. Now, when exactly do I come with this motion right here? No.
I think Richard might have been one of the first ones to kind of do that voice that's become the standard of white voice. Like, hey, everyone, how are you?
I love when white dudes get mad and cuss, right? Because y'all some funny motherfuckers when you cuss. Right? They be saying shit like, yeah, come on, peckerhead. Come on, you fucking jerk off. Come on. Son of a bitch, come on.
Yeah,
I just remember that. I took that from him, you know.
Yeah, even like Eddie Murphy, everybody like, that's the hello, I'm the white guy.
How's it going? Yeah, we'd all, you know, so I remember that being in my act, you know, talking white, and that was from Richard Pryor, from watching Richard Pryor.
Yeah, you fucking ain't right, buddy.
Yeah, so then you from there you got into doing stand-up, and you were doing that all in Alabama, and that's how you came up through the comedy circuit in Alabama.
Yeah, they had a comedy club at it was called a comedy club, and I posted a picture of Steve Harvey and I. Steve Harvey was the first person to come through. I had just gotten the job as the house MC, and the club owner really liked me. And Steve Harvey was the first headliner coming through, and then it was just a blast working with him the first week.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, because like you know, Steve Harvey, obviously one of the kings of comedy, legend in the game, great host of Family Feud, as most people now know him.
That's the dumbest thing you could have said.
Dumbest answer I've ever heard.
That's the stupidest answer. Stupidest thing I done heard.
What are you, an idiot? He's really dumb.
Ignorant answer.
You wanted ignorant.
So Steve Harvey gave you a lot of advice, and did he take you under his wing? Would you say that?
You know, for that week. He was there for a week. We worked together. And I just remember, you know, at the time I was really into LL Cool J. And I would have the Kango on. I would have the sweatsuit on. And I remember the first night I wore that to open for him. And he was like, hey, man, no, that's not going to work. You know, he said, hey, this is a place of business. Steve has always been about treating comedy like a job that you go to. Not necessarily a job in the sense of it's a job, but in the mentality of dressing up, being, you know, presentable. And I remember him saying, "No, man, you can't wear that. No, that's not, you know, when you dress nice." And I said, "Well, all right, Steve." So the first night he let me slide. The second night, I guess I just thought he was just talking. I came back in something similar, and he was like, "Well, you won't be working tonight." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, you got about 15 minutes to, you know, if you can get back over to the dorm and change clothes and come back here in 15 minutes, then maybe." And I just remember rushing back over, man. I put a button-up shirt on. I put some slacks on. I barely made it. In fact, he held the show like about 5 minutes until I got back.
Wow.
And the next day, he just said, hey, meet me at my hotel room, you know, at noon. I met him at his hotel room, and he took me to the mall, and he bought me about 5 different outfits. And
wow.
You know, really nice outfits. And he was like, this is how you should dress. I got you 5 outfits, so this is enough. Because he said, I know you're in college, but you should be able to rotate this 5 times. You know, the club ran like 5 days. It was like you had a different outfit for every day of the club.
Wow, man, that gives, you know, like for Steve Harvey to do that, to take a young comic and take him out and get you the, you know, attire that you know he feels will help you get to the next level. That's just a huge thing. That gives me I always love Steve Harvey, but that gives me an extra dose of respect for the man.
He was very ingratiating, man, to young comics that he worked with on his road to the top. Whenever he would work with a young Black comedian in particular, and the reason I say young, I mean, he was like that with everybody, but a lot of the young Black comedians came out of poverty, came out of the hood, didn't have fathers. And so I think he felt a responsibility of being a positive Black man in another Black man's life and saying, hey, man, this is how you dress for respect. This is how you dress to get people to be able to, so people will see you take this serious. So, you know, he was very, very ingratiating.
That's huge. And that was like early, what was it? Early, when did you start? Like in 2000?
I started
early?
in 1990.
1990.
It was in, I worked with him probably February of 1990.
Yeah. So Steve Harvey was headlining them, but he wasn't like a big name at the time. But for him to do that, take you under his wing, kind of show you the way, and I mean, that's just huge. And that's probably something that's always stayed with you, I would think.
Yeah, it absolutely. Yeah, because at the time he had just done Showtime at the Apollo. He had a really good set. Sinbad was hosting.
Oh, yeah.
And they were considering him as the next host. And he went on. He had a really, really good set. So he was riding that wave. But by no means was he, I mean, he was probably barely 1,000 there. You know what I mean? He by no means was he rolling at that time in money.
Right.
He took his own personal money, you know, that he was making. He was just working from gig to gig. So I never will forget that. And I've seen him since then. You know, he's always nice to me. We always speak. Obviously, as time passed, I lost contact. I mean, even after that, it wasn't like I was calling him every week or we were talking. It was just that magical week. And then whenever I would see him, he would be like, hey, you doing what? And, you know, even to this day, if he sees me or I see him, he's like, hey, Doug, how you doing? What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. You know, although I have to admit, I haven't spoken to him in a long time. I mean, he's way, way up there. So he would have to see me out someplace, maybe on a street corner holding the thing saying I'll work for food. And be like, hey, you know, wear a suit when you hold that sign, I'll work for food. I taught you better.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Now, with that kind of lesson, is that something you pass forward? Do you do that with younger comics? Do you take them under your, maybe not go out and buy them a bunch of suits, but do you take them under your wing or try to guide them and say, hey, here's some of the lessons I learned along the way. Try to avoid A, B, and C.
yeah, you know, things have changed now, though, in terms of having to wear a suit on stage and having, you have to, at that time, you know, Black comedians in particular were trying to find their foothold. Def Jam hadn't come out yet. So, you know, we had to follow a protocol. You know, you were probably the only Black guy on the show. You know, you wanted to, you were almost trying to pave the way for the guy behind you. So we all kind of looked at it, and you didn't want to go in and screw things up and have them say, hey, man, let's not bring any more young Black comics in here. The last guy was dressed like a thug. You know, he cursed. So it was to set a pattern. But now, you know, there really is no standard. I mean, with the internet and all these internet comics and everything. But yeah, I do give advice. If I can give advice, you know, I'll say something. But I think the times have changed now in terms of how to dress and what to do. But it's always, you can never lose by dressing nice. But it doesn't have to be a suit. But you should always be presentable. I do still believe that.
Yes, indeed, man. That's good advice. I should take that advice. I'm sitting here in a hoodie. I should be more dressed nice.
Well, I'm in one too, but it's really a nice hoodie though.
Yeah, you got a nice one. Yeah.
Designer. This is, you know, this is off a rack. You see what I'm saying? This is a rack hoodie.
Yeah, I think this is a champion. Yeah, so I'm
Yeah,
just
you
like,
can buy that at a regular sports store.
yeah, exactly that one. Yeah,
See, I'm gonna have to tell you, like Steve said, you need to up your game, man. That's not gonna work. For you to have a show like this, a podcast, and you dress like that, you're really not representing white people in the way they should be represented.
this is very true. This is very true. So you also hung out with another one of the kings of comedy, was Bernie Mac, who to me, Bernie Mac is arguably one of the greatest ever to hold the mic on the stand-up stage. He's right up there. You know, I think sometimes he gets overlooked for whatever reason. Everybody always goes right to Pryor and Carlin and Cosby and, you know, those guys. But I think Bernie Mac, man, he's fire up there, man.
And I'm blessed. I'm big boned. I'm heavy structured. I'm hung low. If I pull my shit out, this whole room get dark. Kick it!
You know, and I've said this. I don't know if you've seen previous interviews I've done. I have a really soft spot for Bernie because of just how he treated me. And trust me, I've worked with a lot of people in this business, man. And what you see in front of the camera is not always behind the camera. And I think I've learned from being in Hollywood not to become too enamored with people that you see because they're human. And after you see somebody on television for so long, we feel like we know these people. So when you meet them, you're like, hey, and they're not like that. You know, some of them are depressed, some of them are on medication, and you never know how you're going to catch them. But with Bernie, man, he was just so, you want to talk about, you know, it was the last season of his show. I did maybe the second to the last episode of the show.
Wow, man, that sounds so doggone real. It's like it's coming from all around here.
It's not turned on yet. I think that was one of your kids.
And I just recall, and I don't want to give you long answers, but I just recall my mother was in town, and Bernie had a disease called sarcoidosis. They're actually doing like this documentary on sarcoidosis. You have to look it up. It really affects the Black community, Black men in particular. My father has it.
Sarcoidosis is a rare, multi-system disease that occurs when the immune system goes into overdrive, causing abnormal collections of inflammatory cells that form tiny clumps.
And he was living a COVID lifestyle before COVID, because sarcoidosis attacks your immune system, and you catch a regular cold and you struggle with it. So he had just gotten over either he had a cold and it turned into the flu, or it was really bad and they had to halt production. So he was taking precautions. So when you came on that set, you had to make sure your hands were washed. They kept everything sterile, and they gave you almost a list of rules. Hey, don't try to shake Bernie's hand. Don't stand too close to him. If you have to cough or sneeze, do it someplace else. So they gave all these rules, and when they gave you those rules, you almost felt like you were walking on eggshells. And my mother was in town, and she had never been on a set before. And obviously you want to show Mom, hey, look, I'm working. And not only am I working, I'm working with one of the kings of comedy. Yeah. So I remember being intimidated to even ask him that. But I said, hey, you know what? I'm just going to ask him. So when I first got there and we were going through, the walkthrough, and we were preparing, we were standing there because our scenes were together and it was just he and I. So I just remember saying, hey, man, you mind if I bring my mother on the set and, I'll make sure she stays. And he said, hey, your mother's in town. I don't even think he let me finish. And he said, your mother's in town? And I said, yeah. And I remember him. He stopped everything. He said, hey, look, let me just say this. His mother is in town. If he doesn't bring his mother with him tomorrow, do not let him back on the set. In fact, his mother is the key to him getting on this set for the remainder of the time that he's shooting. Wow. You gotta have your mother with you. And man, I brought my mother on the set, and it was so as strict as he was about the thing, and he adhered to that. Like, he wouldn't shake your hand, he threw all that aside with my mother. He came over, he hugged her, he sat there beside her, they sang church hymns. He was just so nice to my mother that it blew me away, man. And I never will forget how nice he was. And I remember when he passed, because he was trying his best not to get sick. And I asked him, I said, hey man, are you going to tour it? And man, we got so close on there that he actually told the producers, hey, if we come back for another season, make him a reoccurring. Every time we're doing a poker scene, have him there.
That's nice. I mean, real nice.
Oh, it gets nicer, brother.
But we started talking, and I asked him, was he going to do stand-up anymore? And he was like, man, I have to live in a bubble. He was like, I want to, but I'm afraid that if I go out and I'm around people, that I might catch something and it could take me out. So when he got sick, I knew, when I heard on the news, I was like, oh, it's almost like somebody predicting what might happen to them. And then it happens to him, and you sit back and go, golly, this is the one thing he was trying to avoid. So I knew when I was following it. He was in the hospital now, and I kept calling my mom saying, Mom, I don't think this is good. I don't think this is good. And he passed. And my mom, we often talk about, because she has a big picture. They took a picture together. We all took a picture together. She has that picture framed in our house. And whenever I come home, if we're around that picture, we look at it and we go, remember how nice Bernie was? So I never will forget that.
It gave me the goosebumps. Passed the goosebump test, man. Those are the kind of stories that real legends are made with, man. You know what I mean? And everything about that guy was just amazing. And for you to have those moments with him and be able to work with him, share the screen with him is priceless indeed, man.
Yeah, man. Tremendous guy. Tremendous guy. Tremendous guy.
Yeah, your career is like just fully loaded with legends. Yeah. Because you also work with Eddie Murphy too, right? You on
another just great experience working with Eddie, man. And the Eddie story is incredible because when Eddie did, we did the Nutty Professor. When he did the Nutty Professor, he had a few movies that didn't do well. He was doing this, those sequels to Cop, Beverly Hills Cop. He had something else.
Excuse me.
Hey! That's not fair.
Maintenance, I gotta go grease the chain. Yeah, dry sound?
Sorry.
Come on, let's go.
And he was so humble on that set. And I'm not saying he was humble as a result of those movies not doing well, but
Right.
you know, he was so happy to have another opportunity. It's almost like, you know, that boxer who has lost the fight and he's eager to get back into the ring and win and get back in there. So he was kind of like that. And I just remember he was just so nice to me on the set, man. We talked and he was telling me that, you know, that the Nutty Professor, he was like, and he was joking around. He's like, man, if this one doesn't hit, I don't know. I think that might be it for me. And I was like, no, Eddie, man, come on, man. And yeah, he was just really, really friendly on that set.
When you're sitting there with Eddie Murphy or you know, Bernie Mac or any of these guys, do you ever like pinch yourself and go, am I like, you know, how did this happen? Like, because it's just so, this is just so amazing. So there you are with Eddie Murphy. Did you do a scene with him on that?
Yeah, if you go back and look at the first Nutty Professor, I actually introduced Dave Chappelle. So I got to meet Dave Chappelle.
You were the one on that stand-up shit?
Yeah, when he comes out, Reggie, hey, my part was so short, I remember my lines from that movie. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Reggie Warrington.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've seen him on Def Comedy Jam many times. Y'all give it up for my man, Reggie Warrington. Give it up, give it up.
That was my line in the movie.
Yeah, that was you. I remember.
And then he comes out, laugh.
Yeah.
And what a nice guy he was, man. He was, you know, bright-eyed. A lot of people don't know. I'm about to write a post on this because it's funny. I just found the picture. I have it that we took together. I took a picture with him, and for a long time it was in my storage. And I was cleaning out my storage today, and I found it. And I always write these things called Doug's Celebrity TBT.
Right.
So I'm about to write one with Dave Chappelle, but so many comedians auditioned. They called in so many comedians for that. But Tom Shadyac, who was the director of that movie, loved Dave Chappelle. He was in love with Dave Chappelle. So funny thing happened. My manager gets me that audition. I don't know what it is. I go in, I meet Tom Shadyac, and you know, I just gotten here from Alabama, nervous, and I remember not doing so well on the audition. And he had a picture up like that of Eddie Murphy in that fat suit. And he said, "You got any good fat jokes?" And you know, I started saying some fat jokes. You know, you're so fat that if we cut you, you bleed. And he actually used a few in the movie. This is one that he used. I said, "You're so fat that if we cut you, you bleed chocolate milk." And he wrote it down. He's like, "Oh, I like that. I like that." So he just started talking to me. He said, "Man, so what's going on?" I told him I had just gotten out here, you know, this and that. And he was like, "You know what? I like you, man. I really like you." And then he didn't say I was getting the part. He just said it. And when I left, though, he said, "Hey, I'll be seeing you." And about 3 weeks went by. I forgot about it. And my manager said, "Hey, I don't know what you did to that director, but he really likes you. He wants you to know you got the part." And that's how I got the part. And then I got on and I met Eddie. Jada Pinkett was in that movie, really nice. But real quick, Dave Chappelle, and I'm probably sure he wouldn't mind me saying this because I'm going to say it in the post. He smoked so much weed in his trailer that it was really like that movie Half Baked. When he opened the door to his trailer, smoke would come out. And he was, you know, he offered me, he's like, "Hey, you want to smoke some weed?" And I was like, "No, I don't smoke weed." And he was like, "Well, you don't probably want to stay in this trailer too much if you don't smoke weed." So, but very professional. It did not, you know, hinder him performing and doing it. He was just smoking weed. It was just a laid back atmosphere. And he was just so friendly, so friendly.
And he was early in his career at that point. I mean, I know he started like 17 or something like that, but he was still must have been young and fairly new and
really young. And he had done a few pilots, and he was calling himself Pilot Boy because he would do a pilot and it wouldn't get picked up. He would do a pilot and it wouldn't get picked up. So he was like, you know, I'm doing all these pilots. But I think that movie had a lot, you know, after he did that movie, things really began to take off for him. I mean, he really nailed that part.
Yeah, that's a whole classic scene. I remember you introducing him. I remember, you know, him heckling Eddie Murphy, the whole thing. Yeah. And I remember what Chappelle looked like. He was like, you know, real skinny and young.
Yeah. He had the little wig with the on him. And
that was great. But you know, and then, you know, obviously then 2003 we had the infamous Emmett Smith roast.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna keep this thing rolling. Another person that does not know anything about Emmitt Smith and you don't know who the fuck he is, give it up for Doug Williams.
Now that's with Jamie Foxx, and we'll get into that. How he didn't roast you, he heckled you. That's how I see it. I don't see that as, that's not roasting rules to me. Like, you know, there's a way to, when you roast somebody, you're on the pulpit and you go, hey, you know, Doug or whatever, and you take a shot there. You don't heckle the man. That's like, so that goes against so many taboos to me.
I want to say this to Emmitt Smith, man.
I'm your conscience.
It is a pleasure.
Man, it sure did get hot in here. Am I fucking up right now? I'm your conscience. I really don't need to be up here right now. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking.
These brothers start making money, you can't tell them shit.
You know what's funny about that though, man? It's almost like the wolf killing the sheep and people coming down on the sheep. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're a sheep. You got, because at the time, you know, when you look at that panel, and I talked about this when I was on Vlad TV, and I talked about this. When you look at that roast, it was star-studded. It was Michael Irvin. It was Dick Gregory, whom I had a chance to work with when I had this show with Martin Lawrence.
Icon and legend.
It was it was Monique. It was what was the coach of the Cowboys? Jimmy
Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson. It was and I just recalled Stuart Scott, the late Stuart Scott.
Yes.
He was on there. And man, you want to talk about another great guy. After that happened, he talked to me, he pepped me up. He was like, hey, Doug, man, he wouldn't let me hold my head down. But anyway, the crazy thing about the roast is that, you know, I didn't have a career. Nobody knew who I was. And I don't think, and I always say, I don't think Jamie did it. It wasn't a thing where he was just trying to like, you know, hey, this is going to go viral, because at the time there was no YouTube, there was no social media.
Right.
But yeah, I got killed on social media by a lot of people as if I was like this juggernaut. I was this big guy who had gotten taken down. And that always baffled me, is that I was a nobody up there trying to make something happen, trying to just get something going in my career. And people look at it as almost as I was a villain in that. That's what's funny about that to me.
I wish I was in a movie with Jamie. Maybe
You're right about
48
that.
hours.
You are right about that.
72 hours.
In fact,
I don't know.
In fact, nigga, I need a cosigner. Can you cosign on the car for me?
I just did another joke that didn't go over. I'm your conscience.
The first time I saw that, obviously through the years, and I never once laughed at you. You know what I'm saying? I never once said, oh man, Jamie's so fun. Every single time I ever watch it, from the very first time I ever watch it, and you know, who knows, maybe Jamie Foxx will watch this and hate me or whatever. But I always thought that Jamie Foxx was the biggest asshole for that. Because that's not the laws of comedy. You don't shit on your fellow comedian, heckle him like that, without, you know. And I think you mentioned this on Vlad too, without a redemption at the end. You know, hey, I'm just, you know, he just let you hang, and you know, all that, and
maybe I should say something nice about Emmett and wrap it up. Or maybe I should talk about how black people have to struggle. Yeah, that'll get them on my side.
You know, and for me, when I put myself in your shoes in that scenario, which, you know, we've all been in similar situations, but not to that degree, right? And then it goes viral years later, and then, like you said, every couple of years it goes viral. You got to relive this shit. Oh, but the thing is, for me, if it would be, the hardest part isn't so much what Jamie was doing, right? Jamie's just being an asshole. It's part of my language on these things. I try to keep it clean most of the time, but to me, the hardest part would be looking over and seeing Dick Gregory and you know, the Tory brothers or whatever, all sitting there laughing, looking over, and there's Emmett, and he's, you know, everybody's trying. That to me would be the hardest to get past. How did you handle it?
I you know, it's funny because, like I said, for a long time it bothered me, and then, you know, through just nighttime conversations with my wife about it, and then once my kids saw it, and you know, I really wish I had embraced it a lot earlier than I have, because, you know, when I look back on it now, it and this is my own, these are my own personal thoughts. I think that Jamie looks back on it in the same vein. I almost think he looks back on it now and say, you know what? Because I think when something is happening, you don't have time to access what's going on. You're just caught up in the moment. But I think because he's been, you know, really nice to me since then. After the roast, like I said, when this show was coming out, he would always make sure that I would come on and promote what I was doing. I've seen him a few times, always really friendly. When he sees me or what have you. But, you know, I think everything just kind of slowed down when it was happening. You know, I didn't see them laughing. I just remember to this day, I did not want to be there, that I didn't want to do that roast. And whenever something happens to you and your first mind wasn't to do it, it echoes as it's going on, like, I've done this.
Yeah, like your sixth sense was telling you, you were feeling the warning signs, you know?
Yeah.
Because like you said too, in I think it was the Vlad interview, that you may have felt a little bit like it was a setup. And I could see that in a way too. You know, them saying, all right, you know what, this is our sacrificial lamb here. We're gonna put him up there. This is where Jamie's gonna do his thing, and or whatever.
I really do think that it was that. And here again, that's after doing it. I just replayed everything that went along with that. I just remember, I distinctively remember wanting, because I didn't want to be there. And if, you know, I spoke about this, I was doing it because my manager at the time, it was the first thing that they had gotten me, the management company. They thought it was a great opportunity. And I didn't want to say, no, I don't want to do that, you know, with the first thing that they're giving you. So I really wanted to just get it out of the way. I remember when I got there saying, hey, I saw the lineup, I saw all these heavy hitters, and I just wanted, hey, you know what? Let me just go up, get it out of the way, and then I can sit back and then just enjoy the rest of the roast.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were like, yeah, no problem, man. I haven't seen a problem with that. And then all of a sudden, you know something when they come back to you and they're not smiling, they go, yeah. So yeah, you're gonna be going next to last. And I was like, really? And they were like, yeah, you know, we gotta, you know, work it out like this. So when that came, I mean, after I replayed all of them in my mind, and the fact that he wanted his microphone to stay on at all times, you know, it seemed like a setup to me. Now I could be wrong. I'm just giving you how I felt, and looking back on it and just surveying it. That's what I felt.
I agree. I think, you know, for him to want the mic on the whole time was basically saying, I am going to heckle people at certain times. I want to be able to intervene, you know, and all that. Because he did something similar to the Cowboys player, Darryl Johnson.
Yeah, you know what? And a lot of people don't know. Man, you must have really watched the whole thing. He was furious about that. In fact, he wanted to get violent about that. And he had to be talked to and told, hey, you know, this is, you know, don't do that. But he was really, really furious about that.
I'll let him go. I'm not a comedian. I'm not going to take shots. I'm just going to talk about Emmett. I'll talk to Jamie afterwards behind closed doors. We'll get this whole thing straightened out.
And I remember this, the reason he was furious, not so much that Jamie did that, because, you know, he's a comedian, but to him, he wanted to give Emmett a send-off. It was that roast. Emmett was nearing the end of his career. So it was supposed to be a roast to celebrate his career. Now it turned into something else. So he was there to really say, to give some heartfelt, you know, goodbyes and some stories. And he felt like it took away from that. So he was really, really upset.
If you see him with a star on his forehead later tonight, you know we got everything settled.
You know, you just brought up something in talking about this that got lost in the shuffle. I'm just remembering that and talking about it. Every time I talk about this, something else. It's been buried in the back of my subconscious for so long. Your conscious.
Yeah.
It's been buried there for so long that every time I talk about it, something new comes to the forefront.
Yeah, because you know some memories you just want to forget them.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I do want people to know though. You know, it doesn't bother me anymore. You know, it's actually helping me now. It's actually, you know, it has done some things for me now. It's almost, you remember, I don't know if you're a sports fan, but you remember that, I can't remember the pitcher's name, but he missed that ball that was coming to first base. Remember, it was in a World Series. He missed that ball. It rolled past him, and he got ostracized.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
They killed him for it. And I mean, this is almost reminds me of that. But then after a while, they started to recognize him for his accomplishments. And thank God, before he died, that city, they embraced him. They gave him so much love for all the things that he did do. And that's kind of what's happening with this roast now, you know, after all these years.
Exactly. And I think, you know, lesser men such as myself in that scenario would have packed it up and just, you know, I don't know what I would have done, to be honest. But you kept moving forward and persevered through it. How was that process to get over that, you know, in the first,
well, it's funny because that, you know, here's what people fail to realize. That came out in 2003, but we shot that before it came out. So I want to say we shot that in 2002, 2001. I think it debuted on the DVD in 2003. We had done it like a year before that.
Oh, wow.
And then, you know, like I said, they didn't have all of these social media platforms. So it just kind of disappeared, you know, so for like about until 2006, until it resurfaced, it never affected me. But then when it resurfaced, and keep in mind, the effects of that were felt from that whole YouTube. I mean, there's a whole new, you're a stand-up comedian, right?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Well, you know stand-up.
Yeah, I know stand-up.
You know, you have people that come to the club that see us, the normal, and then you have a whole new YouTube comedy generation that's out there that, you know, just want to see comedy on YouTube, and they love these famous YouTube comedians. And these are not necessarily comedy goers. You know, they like to click comedy. So that generation is the one, they saw it, and they're the ones that essentially tried to kill me and say I'm destroyed and, you know, I never worked. But they don't realize that I went on after that to create a show with Martin Lawrence called Martin Lawrence Presents the First Amendment that gave a platform to 100 or so comedians. Included in that was Dr. Ken. Dr. Ken it was probably his first television appearance. He did that show.
Wow.
Cheryl Underwood, Dion Cole. So many people did the show that I created with Martin, and people don't know about that. So, you know, I always tell people it never killed my career. It just it blew up to a generation who weren't familiar with me, who didn't check to see what else I was doing, and that's what happened.
Right on, man. Yeah, and you continue to do huge things. Like I said, your resume is so stacked. Like with that show, the one night stand show that you did with Martin Lawrence and all that, the Martin Lawrence show that you produced and hosted and launched so many careers. You know, so talk about paying it forward, talking about going all the way back to Steve Harvey, what he's done for comedians and what, you know, Bernie Mac, it all comes full circle.
And I did all of that stuff after the roast. I take the Bernie Mac show, all of that stuff I did after that roast. So, you know, unfortunately, the internet is full of negativity. You know, Mike Tyson said it. I read a quote from Mike Tyson. He's like, the internet has made it easy for people to talk, and I'm paraphrasing him, to talk about people because they don't have to face the people, you know?
Right, exactly.
It has made cowards brave because you can just get on and type all this stuff and you don't have to have any consequences of meeting the person or saying it to them and face them. So the internet is just brutally negative. They look for negative things. because I've had a Comedy Central special. You know, nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that. But that roast, like I said,
that's
every
everywhere.
couple of years it comes back around. Which, by the way, I don't want people to know it's working for me now.
Yeah,
so
and it's
please keep spreading the roast, keep showing that roast, keep saying I'm dead. You know, because it's like blood. It's the gift that keeps on giving. You know, if and I'm just using a round number. If 20 people watch that roast, 5 or 6 people will go further to see what I do. I've done and follow me on social media and become fans of mine.
Exactly, man. Yeah, I think that you are taking this a negative becoming a positive, and like you said too, every couple of years a new batch of comedy enthusiasts discover this roast, and then ultimately they discover you, and then then they'll look into more of your career and see all the high points.
Y'all got to see the cleavage right here. I could put my whole fist. Don't try to cover it up now. You knew what you was doing when you came out here. Look, she talking about, hey, that's what I'm here for.
And also that you're a guy that keeps it positive. You're above the fray, and I think and this proves that. You know, because there's a lot of things you could have done to retaliate. You could have backstage. You could have gotten violent like Daryl Johnson wanted to.
If you see him with a star on his forehead later tonight, you know we got everything settled.
But you did move past it far beyond that. You've done a lot of huge things.
And I always like to say, Don, this world has given people a skewed vision of what success is. And I always tell people, look, I'm from Montgomery, Alabama. Most of my friends are dead or selling drugs or working at some type of factory, which was almost a charted course for me. But here's success, Don. If you can find, and I always tell my kids this, something that you love to do, something that you would do for free, then you found true happiness. And how many times, as a comedian, when we were trying to get to this point, that we just go, people, they're doing it now. You do it for free. You do it for the love of it. And I think that's one of the things that has hurt me most about this pandemic is that I haven't been able to do stand-up. Look, I do what I love, and by the grace of God, I'm able to take care of my family only doing what I love. You can't get more successful than that because trust me, I have met people in this business who have millions and millions of dollars who are miserable. Yeah. And to me, you can't put a price tag on happiness. So if you can do something that you're happy doing, that you would do for free, and make a living at it, to me, that's the ultimate in success.
Well said, man. And it's truth all around. And yeah, man, that's what it's all about. That is the measure of success is happiness. It's not money. You can't put a price tag on that. And, and doing what you love, that's sugar on top, man.
You know what? I don't mean to. You did a really good job with that background. I actually thought that was until you just kind of made a little thing. I thought that was your house, man. Man, that is a great background, dude.
This is Wayne's World. It's Wayne's World.
Dude, you have a lot more money in this production than you're leading on. You know what I'm saying? I came on here because they said this is a small time show and Don is trying to make this thing happen. You got a lot more money than you leading on, Don. This is big time, Don.
This is the set of Wayne's World, so I wanted to honor Wayne's World while we're in quarantine. We're all kind of doing it from our home.
That just goes to show you how into Wayne's World Black people were. I would have never known that. I thought that was your place. I would have never. Now, if that was Sanford and Son, I would have been like, hey.
I should get the Sanford and Son set. That would be awesome. So it's getting close to New Year's. We're going to get out. 2020 will finally be past us in 2021. What's your view of 2021 going to be? Like, what's your for
the first time in my life, Don, I've never had to face so much uncertainty. Like, I was booked for the rest of the year, in March. and my whole calendar got wiped out. And now, like I said, I can't do stand-up. And for those of us, going back to what I said, stand-up was really therapy for me. It was more than just performing, more than just making a living. It was the ability to get up, almost like when you go sit to a therapist and you lay back on the couch, and that's what stand-up is for most stand-up comedians. So I really don't know, Don. I tell you what though, man, for the first time in my life, I can honestly say I've been afraid because, I don't know where my next gig is coming from. I don't know. And like I said, I made my living from being out on the road. So, and I don't know when it's going to get back to normal. So I can't predict what's going to happen. I hope, that we can go back to normal. I hope the vaccine works. And I just want to get back to doing what I love and being around the people that I love. And I pray, that's my prayer, that we're able to do that.
Yeah, man, it is scary times, and the uncertainty is crazy. And we've lived through this for over 9 months now, and everybody's kind of, I guess just mentally you view the end of the year as like the finish line, and then we're gonna have a new start, and we'll be past this, and we do have the vaccine. So I'm just praying that these vaccines work and we can start to get back to some kind of normal. I don't think it's going to be fully normal anytime soon, but at least semi-normal where we can get back into the comedy clubs at least
make a living, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
I'm not, I tried not too long ago, a week ago or whatever, to do, like this internet comedy, and it didn't work for me. So, I this YouTube comedy, standing there and doing comedy and having people type in what they think, that didn't work out too well for me. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, those Zoom shows are rough. Like I've seen a few people, I've watched a few to support some of my fellow comics. I've seen a few guys really kill on those, but it's very few and far between. That's not because of the comedians. It's because of it's hard to do a stand-up looking at a computer. So if you're the comic, you're staring at your computer, looking at yourself, basically doing your thing, and you're not hearing laughter.
Yeah, you have to develop, and see, that's what I'm saying. You have guys who are making millions of dollars off of doing that are familiar with that. So, they didn't miss a beat. But, for us old school comics, who came up in the comedy club, and, you have to try to adapt and try to figure it out. And that's I'm in the process of trying to figure it out.
Well, let's hope that the club start. You're in LA now, right? So let's hope they those LA clubs start opening up soon. I know you guys are kind of locked in. You're in this. You guys, I think we both have the same governor, just different faces and bodies. Just want to shut everything down that's fun. But before I let you go, I just want to see if you have a New Year's resolution, and then just tell everybody where they could find you and follow you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, man. So my website is really the link to everything. DougWilliams.net. I always say, not .com.net. You know what I'm saying? So DougWilliams.net, that will take you to all of my media sites. But just to give it to them, on Instagram, I'm Mr. Douglas. My name is Douglas Williams. Mr. Douglas Williams. On Twitter, I'm Mr. Doug Williams. I'm really, my wife and I have a small production company, and we have a few things that we just finished that we're going to go out and try to shop. So, just trying to do things in front of the camera and behind the camera, and just trying to keep creating and inventing. And, lastly, I just want to say this, Don, people like you doing things like this lead to the big thing, because, everybody thinks you start out Conan O'Brien, or you start out, Saturday Night Live or whatever. But I come from the world of just doing, things like your show and seeing people like you go on to do big things. So I just want to tell you to keep doing what you're doing. You took a chance. And for people that don't, just give them a quick behind the scenes, Don reached out to me. And I know he probably thought I was being a Hollywood, because he emailed me directly, and I was like, Don, can you talk to my management? Here again, Don, I just got with this management company. I'm trying to make sure that I follow the proper. So I sent him to my management company, and then there was a delay. I know he's like, oh man, this is Hollywood. But Don is perseverance. He stuck with it. He kept talking to my management company. But I told you, I said, hey, Don, I'm going to do it. Just go through my man. And here I am. So keep doing what you're doing, Don. Much success to you. Thank you for having me on the show, good buddy.
Mr. Doug Williams, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. You're an amazing guy and an inspiration, and I hope that bigger and better things happen for you. I hope these clubs start to open up again, and you're back at it. Wish you all the best in the new year, and God bless you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Don. Be safe, buddy.
Thanks, man. Doug Williams, everybody. Yes.